Intrigue, subterfuge, and scheming. All markers of the environment that the Mastermind rogue thrives within. Rather than focusing on combat and stealth prowess, the Mastermind rogue is a master of words and tactics. Many spies, courtiers, and schemers will find themselves at home in this archetype, spreading their influence through deception and trickery as they gain valuable information that will aid them in their further exploits. The first ability you obtain when you choose this archetype at 3rd level is Master of Intrigue, which gives you a pile of proficiencies, namely the Disguise Kit, the Forgery Kit, and one gaming set of your choice. In addition to this, you will also learn 2 additional languages. Lastly, if you hear a creature speak for a minute, you can effectively mimic the accent and pass yourself off as a native speaker of that region. Of course, this assumes that you know the language. Right off the bat, this ability establishes a trend and an overarching theme of the Mastermind rogue. That theme being the social and exploratory pillars of D&D. It is no secret that rogues get a mountain of proficiencies on their own, and this ability further adds to that pile. Disguise Kit and Forgery Kit are not bad proficiencies in the least, but you will typically have to work to make them relevant in a campaign. This is doubly so for your additional languages. The second part of the ability that allows you to mimic speech patterns and accents will largely vary from table to table in terms of usefulness. But in most campaigns that I have played in or watched online, it seems like this will be limited in relevance, only reserved for the most specific of situations or campaigns. Due to the limited usefulness, I give this ability a 2 out of 5 stars, primarily in comparison to other very strong 3rd level rogue archetype features like the ones that the Arcane Trickster or Swashbuckler rogue gets. If you do play a Mastermind, work with your DM to help you make sure that these proficiencies do come up and really allow you to shine. Luckily, that is not the only ability you gain at 3rd level. You also get Master of Tactics, which allows you to use the help action as a bonus action. Additionally, you can aid an ally if the target is within 30 feet of you and can see or hear you, rather than the typical 5 feet. Now this is a simple feature, but it truly is the bread and butter of the Mastermind rogue. You already have a great number of things that you can do with your bonus action, such as disengage or hide thanks to cunning action, and now you can use the help action to give your ally advantage on an attack. This is actually my favorite ability of the subclass, and it really comes with a lot of personality. As a Mastermind rogue, you are using your expertise of combat to call out weaknesses and strategic maneuvers to your allies, or even distracting your foes at a distance. The help action is one that is inherently cooperative and can breed a fun and cool table dynamic. Sure, it is competing for your bonus action, but when you aren't otherwise disengaging, dashing, or hiding, an advantage for your paladin for critical hit fishing, or a fighter who can use maneuvers to knock down or disarm your enemies is not a bad way to use your bonus action. That being said, I won't act like rogues aren't a bonus action hungry class already, and this ability further fights for that spot, especially 2-weapon fighting rogues. If you are a Mastermind, you will want to work with your party to ensure you have sneak attack active as much as possible. Also, you will likely want to use a rapier or a short bow rather than 2-weapon fighting with daggers or short swords. Overall, I give the Master of Tactics ability a 4 out of 5. Your next ability comes at 9th level and is called Insightful Manipulator. This ability allows you to learn limited information about creatures in comparison to you, provided you are able to interact or observe the creature for 1 minute outside of combat. You learn 2 characteristics from intelligence, wisdom, or charisma scores and/or class levels. You don't learn the actual numbers in most cases, however, you learn if they are equal, superior, or inferior to yours. Oof, this is a bit of a rough one for most campaigns. Unless you have the drop on an enemy in a combat encounter or know the enemy well, you likely won't be able to use this ability on average. The main exception to this is an intrigue-based campaign, where the plot and overall play pattern revolve around spying, sneaking, subterfuge, and social gatherings rather than dungeon delving. This doesn't mean it will never come up in a traditional D&D game, but it will certainly be a bit circumstantial. The main thing that saves this ability for me is the final lines of text that denotes if your DM is benevolent, they may also share a piece of the creature's history or personality traits. This can be quite fun when it goes off and you can be the recipient for any relevant lore that the DM may be excited to share. In a typical campaign, however, I would give it a 2 out of 5. Though your caster friends will likely be appreciative of you for calling out the enemy's mental weaknesses, the main drawback is the minute of observation. I would have even preferred a bonus action with a limited amount of uses per long rest. However, that's not what we're getting here. Hey, if you're enjoying the video so far, please consider leaving a like so I know to make more like it. Your next subclass ability comes at 13th level and is called Misdirection. This ability enables you to have another creature be struck by an attack rather than you, provided the creature you would like to receive the attack is within 5 feet of you and granting you cover. In order to do this, it requires a reaction. This one is a tricky one for me. On one hand, I really like the thought behind it. In theory, you're able to have one enemy's attacks do damage to another one of their buddies rather than you. However, there are a lot of conditions to be met here. Likely, the attack will be from a ranged attack. Since you are benefiting from cover based off of one of their allies, you must also be within 5 feet of the creature giving you cover. Not only that, but the ranged attacker needs to have already made the decision to attack you under non-ideal circumstances. Since you're getting cover, you're going to have a higher AC. Under these very specific circumstances, is this better than Uncanny Dodge? Absolutely. But the question here is whether these circumstances will occur enough to make this ability really stand out. Honestly, I would lean towards a no. Much like the previous ability, it is super cool, but only if it comes up enough to make a difference. I'm not convinced it will. Alternatively, you can impose attacks on allies, but I'm not sure how much better that would be compared to just a standard Uncanny Dodge. Sure, you could shove off some attacks to a barbarian party member, which could certainly be fun, but the real shine of this ability is when you impose the attacks on other foes. Overall, I give this ability a 3 out of 5, mainly for the super neat moments when it does line up perfectly. Finally, we get to your 17th level ability, Soul of Deceit. Soul of Deceit means that your thoughts cannot be read unless you allow it, and you can even present false thoughts to the mind reader by a contested deception versus insight. You also cannot be compelled to tell the truth by magical means, and if magic were to be used to determine the truth of your statement, this magic indicates you are always being truthful. Let's start with the positives here. I think the ability to take these ordinarily difficult and information-divulging situations that you might find your character in and turn them into positives by providing false thoughts or lying while your interrogator thinks you're being truthful is a massive swing in social interactions. However, I do find that a lot of these scenarios that I can think of involve the whole party being within the zone of truth or being also impacted by detect thoughts. And man, oh man, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but I feel like we have reached the pinnacle of situational here with this ability. Just like some of the previous abilities, if this comes up, it is so flavorful and situationally powerful. However, if these situations never occur in your campaign, or only do so on 1 or 2 occasions, then 90% of the time, you are left with these blank spots on your character sheet. In this case, mind reading and truth effects are not so common that they deserve to be a subclass capstone ability. I unfortunately have to give this ability a 1 out of 5. So that's the Mastermind Rogue. It is no secret that I was a little harsh on this guy. So to play devil's advocate here, the nature of D&D allows that any ability can be relevant if you have a DM that crafts the narrative around your abilities, or the subclass naturally fits into the setting perfectly. However, that is something that you need to be aware of when going into a subclass, and this is certainly one that is going to need some of that consideration to remain useful and relevant in comparison to so many other rogues such as the Soul Knife, Swashbuckler, Arcane Trickster, and the Phantom Rogue that are simply more useful in a higher variety of scenarios. What I do like about the Mastermind Rogue is that it feels completely fresh and unique from the other roguish archetypes and has a lot of interesting cooperative and social abilities. While I do give this subclass a final score of 2 out of 5 when compared to other roguish archetypes, I could totally see myself playing one in a high political intrigue-based campaign, or just an overall spy character, which it was obviously intended to be. I can imagine that this one is very attractive to new players who like the intrigue and the coolness factor of it. And certainly the roguish chassis is one that has a lot of value inherent to it, but if you want that extra mechanical ability from your subclass, I don't think the Mastermind Rogue is going to give you it. Though I would love to know your thoughts on this. If you found this at all helpful, please consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you on your next short rest.